Hello everyone and welcome to KWT's Microsoft Outlook Contacts Overview module. There are a few other features of contacts that you might find useful. So you can separate your contacts into folders and subfolders, and this can be useful for a number of reasons. If you want to share some contacts but not all, then it's useful to group these into separate folders because the sharing of contacts is done at the folder level. Now, for ease of use and for finding contacts, you may choose to have your contacts separated based on the relationship. So you might have vendors and customers, personal contacts, all separated out into different folders. If there are specific contacts that will regularly receive a form letter where you're going to use mail merge, having a separate folder can be useful because you don't have to select the individual contacts each time you want to do the mail merge. You can just grab the whole folder and run the mail merge over everything within that folder. So some things to consider as you're building up your various folders within your contacts. You can forward contacts, and again, you can forward these as business cards or as an Outlook contact. If you forward them as an Outlook contact, the recipient must be on Outlook for it to be useful to them. So if you're not sure if the recipient is on Outlook, you may want to send it as a business card instead. Permissions are important when you're sharing a folder of contacts. You can give different levels of permission to individuals for a particular contact folder, and similar to all the other elements within Outlook, those levels of permission are the same, everything from owner through author, editor, down to reviewer or none, and for no permissions at all. So if you want to have a contact folder that you want to share with your team or share with another individual within your organization, you can share it with them, and then you can adjust their permissions beyond that. And then they can open that contact folder within their own Outlook and view, edit, change, depending on what permissions you have given them. So let's take a look at how some of this looks. As you can see, I've created a few folders here. You always have your standard contacts folder. That's sort of the default for everything. But then you can create as many folders as you like for other information. And then once you've created contacts, you can drag them off into other folders as need be. So they can get moved around, which also allows you to create folders for things like a particular mail merge or a folder for a particular project. And you could take all the contacts related to that project and move them over to the project folder. Of course, that's only for the length of time that the project is ongoing, at which time you'll want to move them back, either back to an individual folder or back to your general contacts. So we can, as we mentioned, forward contacts. So we right click on a contact and we can forward, and here we can select either as a business card or as an Outlook contact. If it's a business card, it attaches a VCF file as well as putting the contact card information in the body of the email. Anybody can accept that information regardless of what Outlook client they are using. If you forward as an Outlook contact, it looks a little bit different, but it simply attaches an Outlook compatible file that the user on the other end can then accept. And if they're on Outlook, it will accept it and put the contact into their own personal contacts list. So as I said, sharing contacts can be very useful for a project team, for a purchasing department to share their vendors, for a customer service department to share their customers, whatever makes sense for your role and for your organization. And once the folder is in place, you can then share it with a particular individual. So this is something you'd more likely do with your main contacts. You may want to share that with a delegate just so they have access to all of the contacts that might be important for them if they're filling in for you while you're away. So you put in their email address, and at the same time, you can request permission to their contacts folder. So you may want it to go both ways. And keep in mind, this only works for people within your own organization, within your own Exchange network or your Outlook 365. Once you have shared a folder, you can tweak the permissions under Properties and the Permissions tab. And the permission screen is the same regardless of what type of element within Outlook we're dealing with, whether that's emails, calendars, or contacts. So we have the same permission levels as we've seen in other areas. So I can make somebody a publishing editor, and it shows me exactly what that entails, create items and so on. Now, maybe I want them to be a publishing editor, but without the create. So I can tweak it from there, and it turns it into a custom permission level. So you can play around with that and make sure that you are giving exactly the right permissions you want to each of your contact folders. And of course, you can add people from your global address book to give them different levels of permissions at any time. So think about how you might organize your contacts, what might make sense for you in terms of having folders of contacts. Think about if there is any opportunity to collaborate with your team members to share your contacts so that you're not both maintaining that same list of contacts. We all know that double data entry is always an issue, especially when it's done by two different people. So if you can get them all into a single shared contacts folder where everybody's maintaining them in one spot, it makes for much better data. So there you are, a couple of things to take a look at within your contacts. That's the end of this module.